Hello, I'm Linda Means. Welcome to this special program about our Afghan community amongst us, sponsored by Dover-Chevron Cable Television. I have a group of very interesting people here today who have been working with our Afghan community. I'm sure most of you saw the exit from Afghanistan, the fact that it was a bit chaotic and things happened very quickly, which had a lot of ramifications for the people still there and the people who came here. So we want to talk about that today. We have some members of our Afghan community here to tell their story, people from various groups, Coleman, Beth in particular, and Margine, who are working to help these people. And we're going to talk about the legal complexities because their status is not quite clear yet. They had to leave in a big hurry, and that's causing problems. So we're going to talk about that today. Beth, can I start with you?
Sure.
Beth is Director of Christian Life at the Dover Church, and she's working with a consortium of other churches and groups, and she's going to tell us what you're doing and how it came about and how it's going.
So thanks, Linda. Back in November, we actually got a call from Margine from Catholic Charities asking, pardon me, if we could help. They were expecting a group of 6 individual men to come to Boston, and up until this time, they had pretty much worked with families, and they weren't sure really how to best situate 6 individuals coming to the Boston area. And Max and I from the Dover Church, we just looked at each other and said, yes, of course we're going to help. We had no idea what we were getting into. And we decided, we went to the airport and met Margine and met 2 of the young men who came, and just kind of have gone from there. We originally put them up in a hotel because we really didn't know where to put them. We've worked to make sure they had clothing because they came in early December, and make sure they had warm clothes at the time. And then we were working with to find housing for them, really is what we were looking to do. And unfortunately, our church, being a congregational church, is very slow in its decision-making process. And so for that original group of 6, we actually could not sign a lease to put them into an apartment, but fortunately there were two groups in Newton who were ready and willing to sign a lease, and so Temple Shalom is one of them, and they have 2 apartments with 4 of the guys in them, and then there's congregation, I don't want to say incorrectly.
Oh, Dorsai Sedek.
No.
Not Sedek.
No. I'm not going to get it right.
Sharifa Talifa?
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
it.
Talifa.
And
Sorry,
and so they have 2 of the other guys in one of the apartments as well. And so we got them settled, and that included getting all the furniture and groceries and making sure that they had a home.
Mm-hmm.
And within days, we found out that there were another 6 guys who had landed in Worcester.
You were afraid maybe this would be a complicated situation, and it was, right?
No. And so we went out and met the 6 guys in Worcester and brought them also to the same apartment complex where we situated the first 6 guys. So we're developing a little community for them, and since then there have been 4 or 5 more families who have moved into this community as well. So it's become a nice little group, right? Yeah. That you live together. And my friend Salam is one of the young men that we're helping to settle. Mm-hmm. And our goal is to support them as they become, fully functioning Americans, and helping them to find their way since everything has changed for them. So.
I was kind of amazed when I first started learning about all these activities that people are doing, how much is involved. Yes, housing, food, social security numbers, learning to drive if they don't know how. All this relies on volunteers, right? Social security numbers. I mean, how many volunteers would you say it takes to make all this happen in a reasonable period of time?
I think it depends. Our guys are fortunately fairly independent. Mm-hmm. Their English is very good, which we've been fortunate with. I know not every family coming here has that. But even still, you talk about driving. Where they're located currently, they can get on a bus that will take them to the Green Line, which will take them into Boston. But grocery shopping is difficult. Anyone who's had to take a bus or the subway to go grocery shopping knows that you can't buy a whole lot because you have to carry it all. And so we have set up a carpool originally to have a volunteer take them to go grocery shopping once a week. What else? To take you to the dentist appointments, medical appointments.
Yeah, they're doing all of that for us. We are all thanks for this.
Yeah.
And,
No.
Okay. Salim, would you like to tell us about your personal story? How did you start at the beginning and tell us about your life here?
Okay, like in a big family, we had a I have a 5 or 6 uncles. Like I started in the first school. After school, I went to the university, and after university, I was in the second semester, like in the middle of second semester when we lost Afghanistan, and that's happened why I'm here. Like in August 15, like the day before, one day we lost in Kabul, like capital city. I was in university, and our teachers told us, all of us, he said you can guys go to home, and I think it happened. We lost Afghanistan, and also that's my father working with the American armies, and he was killed by Taliban like in 2011. I applied for SIV cases, and at this time, but I didn't answer from SIV, like from this process. I didn't answer anything. Like after that, when we lost Afghanistan, like I tried to move from Afghanistan, and I went to the airport, and they moved us to the United Arab Emirates. We spent 2 months in the United Arab Emirates. After that, they moved us to Virginia in a camp, and like in American armies. And after that, I spent 2 months in camp, and we moved to Worcester, and we spent like 2 months in Worcester, like in hotel. They moved us
a lot of moving around.
Yeah, they moved us in hotel, and we spent 2 months there. And I met the new guys, like the 6 of guys Miss Beth told you. I met them in the Worcester. Like I met one of them in camp in Virginia, but when I come to hotel, I met them, and they have friends like Idris and Shams, who like introduced us to Miss Beth. Like after that, they all moved to Boston. I was alone in hotel, and they said we can talk with Miss Beth. They are to move me to the Boston, and one day I met her. Like she said, you can live with them here. She can like help me to find a job, to find like good place for education, like for studying. After that, I moved to Boston, and now I have a job, and I tried to like go to the school. Like she helped me a lot for to find a job and to find the classes for me. I love to study IT, like I love to study IT, and she helped me a lot.
That's great.
it. Yeah.
So you're pretty settled. You have in an apartment. You have a community. You're going to school. You have a job.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
I have a hard journey from Afghanistan.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Colm McGarry is Director of Pastoral and Youth Ministry, right, at the St. Julia's Parish in Lincoln and Weston.
Yes. And that was where I was involved with this power program that Catholic Charities had set up. And our group, I think, is a little less efficient than Beth's group, but we rely a lot more on Jean and Rachie from the Jewish Services. But their resources were great. And we also had the help of a real estate agent called Mary Dunleavy, who, once she found a house for us, we acted, our parish community acted very quickly. Within about 2 weeks, the decision was made. We're not as democratic as some churches. So once the priest said it's okay, we were good to go.
We wish we
There
were
are
that
some
way.
advantages to that.
Right. So once Mary could find an apartment, and we had some donors who said, let's just make this happen. Let's make this happen. And what the parish really rallied around was getting the furniture. That was super fun. So filling a truck, just sending an email to the whole parish and saying, we're going to fill this truck and here's what we need. And we, did the list, and and that was really fun. And that was Christmas Eve, actually.
Yeah.
And then I met Tajuddin and Shirsha the day after Christmas, and brought them to a fully furnished apartment, which was really a wonderful thing, gift. And so then Abdul joined in January, and Omid came a couple of months later. Tajuddin will tell his own story, but these, again, like you, Beth, the independence, the hard-working nature of the people that we're supporting, that we have supported, really is the key here. So there's lots of paperwork. Catholic Charities provide caseworkers, but there's lots to do with the medical and the legal stuff, and that is still ongoing. And that's a lot of the reason, I think, why we're gathered today to talk about the legal challenges that still face these men and their families, and all the families that are here, up to 80,000 plus people. And I'm deeply moved when I visit, and I hear some of the guys talking about, well, the Taliban came to my house today, and they just took the car out of the driveway, and now my family's in hiding. Or the Taliban came to the house and threatened everyone in my family, and my family don't know what to do. They have nowhere to go, and they're afraid. And it's very dangerous there. There's a lot of issues and a lot of problems with the climate, with the economy, and I know the men. Right, Tajuddin will tell his own story, but he's working very hard, 2 jobs, to provide for his family. But I'm deeply moved when I spend time with them. They're my friends, and I don't feel like it's a supportive relationship where we maintain a friendship. And this concern that they have about their status and obviously their families is my concern too. And I just want to share how deeply concerned I am about that, and how heart-wrenching it is for me personally, and also how sort of paralyzed I feel about how to help that, because this is not about providing food or finding a dentist or getting the driving lessons. This is hard stuff that we need help with, and we need people to know about. So I'm really grateful to Linda for getting us together, and for this forum to talk about these issues. They are very important.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had the same feelings you've had about what danger people are in back home in Afghanistan, how tough life has been here. Thank you for sharing all that. Tajuddin, maybe you will tell us your story.
من چون انگلیسی خوب نیست میخوام به زبان دری براتون پاسخ بدم. مدت 5 سال در کمان وظیفه اجرا کردم، در قطعات خاص وظیفه اجرا کردم. بعد از اینکه 15 آگوست حکومت سقوط کرد، بعد از توسط هلیکوپتر ما به ازبکستان آمدیم. بعد از مدت سپری کردن 1 ماه در ازبکستان آمدیم در ابوظبی، در دبی. بعد از اونجا بالاخره به پنسیلوانیا پایین شدیم. از اونجا باز در کمپ ویرجینیا بودیم و بعد از مدت سپری کردن 45 روز در کمپ آمدیم در استیت ما را آوردن و اینجا آوردیم. و بعد از سپری کردن 15 هفته و تشکری خاص از کالم میکنم که بهترین دوستم است و من در هر کار همکاری کرده و در کار سپورت کرده. بعد از اونجا در گرفتن لایسنس، در پیدا کردن وظیفه، در هر کار ما را کالم و تیمی که برشون کمک میکرد همکاری کردن و تشکری خاص از جا میکنم. و فامیلی ما که در افغانستان مانده در وضعیت خوب نیستن و خانم ما و اولادای ما برادر و پدر و تمام فامیلی ما در وضعیت خوب نیستن دیگه. امیدوارم که با زودترین فرصت بتونم ما را بیارم اینجا و کاری در حقشان بکنیم. تشکر. Thank you so much.
I wish I understood all of that, but our listeners, I know, will have a transcript and a translation, so they will understand. Thank you for sharing your story. It's probably not easy to do.
Thank you, appreciate for your help.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
The main thing we have to do is, as Colm was pointing out, was get some legal action that will make life possible on a continuing basis in this country for these wonderful people who were fighting and working with us and for us at the risk of their own and their families' welfare and life. So Marjeen Perat, who is her resume is so long that it would take the rest of our time to go through it all, but she is Vice President of Refugee and Immigration Services at Catholic Charities, right?
Correct.
So what's next for our 76,000 Afghan residents in this country?
Well, thank you, Linda, for this opportunity to be here and for organizing us. And I just also really want to thank Colm and Beth for truly what we call answering the call, literally, figuratively, in joining with Catholic Charities in this really important and life-changing work, because we could not have managed to evacuate almost 160 Afghans without your help and dedication. And I want to say tashakur. Thank you to Salam and Taj for all that you did for our country and for giving me and my team and Catholic Charities the opportunity to know you and to be able to give back and to serve you. You guys are why we are here at Catholic Charities. We're here to help support you, to introduce you to wonderful members of the community, and also to continue to fight for you to be able to remain here in the United States in a permanent resident status. And so, Linda, I would like, if you don't mind, for me to talk a little bit about and reflect on some of what Colm said about the real challenges that over 76,000 Afghans who were evacuated by the U.S. government to the United States now face 1 year later. You know, our evacuees arrived with a temporary status called parole. That was the only option available to the U.S. government legally to bring everybody out of that chaos that was in Kabul that week after August 15th. That was the only way to get people out. And unfortunately, the way to get people to remain legally and permanently in the United States will involve now a very long process to apply for asylum, yes, which I know you guys are familiar with. There are some other visas that some Afghans will be eligible for, like Salam, you mentioned the SIV, Special Immigrant Visa, but those cases were so backlogged. Yeah. And new applications are so difficult to file for and to get. So asylum becomes the only legal mechanism for people to get a green card. Yeah. That we know what it's called, green card, right? And the problem with asylum system is in the United States, unfortunately, that system is broken. We have over 400,000 other people, other immigrants and refugees applying for asylum. The U.S. asylum system does not have enough staff. It does not have enough capacity to process these cases quickly. I have very dear Afghan friends who were here long before the fall of Kabul. They've been waiting 9 years to get asylum, to get their case an interview, to even be able to tell their story. And every year they have to keep renewing their work permit, which costs Afghans and all people that have work permits over $465. And if you don't have a work permit, then you can't continue to work, right? And so if all of us who understand and care about this issue would put our hearts in the right place and raise our voices, those of us that can vote, to talk to your congressmen and women about the Afghan Adjustment Act. This is a very important piece of bipartisan has both Democratic and Republican support, legislation in the House and the Senate. We rarely see bipartisan legislation these days, let's be frank. That's not a political statement, it's a fact. And so when we have this opportunity to come together and vote for something that makes sense, we're asking the government to streamline the process and allow Afghans who were, again, brought into the United States, vetted by the United States, to now go through a new process of re-vetting, make sure everything has been okay with you guys for the last year, and then complete your background checks again, and then apply for a green card. You cut out the need for asylum applications that require a ton of evidence. I'm sure neither one of you had time to pack up all of your papers, right? Yeah. All of your documents, all of your photographs, all of your story. That takes a while. You didn't have that chance. You had to leave. So you don't have that evidence now. An asylum application requires a lot of evidence. You have to prove all of this persecution. And those applications, when my staff send out an application for asylum, like we are doing for many of our Afghan clients, it's 400 pages long.
Wow.
Yes, 400 pages long. I'm sorry, we're not helping the environment here either with these applications, but I'm giving you that illustration because that's how much work it takes. And we are at a time in this country when immigration attorneys are completely overwhelmed. Nonprofit immigration attorneys like ours at Catholic Charities carry caseloads of 100 to 150 at a minimum. And so there's a huge backlog in even the ability for an attorney to take your case and see it all the way through. And so an Afghan Adjustment Act, it just makes sense. It frees up resources of the U.S. government to process other immigrants' applications. It gives you the feeling of permanency. I can't imagine, as somebody born in the United States and a U.S. citizen automatically, what it must feel like every day to wake up and say, I know this country wants me here, but I still don't have that paper. I still don't have that card that says I belong and I can stay. And that feeling causes so much anxiety, so much mental health stress among all of our Afghan clients, among mothers and fathers, and little kids even understand that they're not here permanently just yet. Why not make the path? We've done this in this country for other groups. We've done it most recently for Liberians who fled decades-long civil war. We've done it for the Cubans who can always continue to come to our shores seeking freedom and asylum. And so this is not a heavy lift, if you will. It requires, though, that Congress continues to come together and agrees to vote on the Afghan Adjustment Act. And I'll pause there for any questions.
You made a very convincing and passionate argument for this bill.
Well, put me in front of Congress, please.
Well, it sounds like maybe what the rest of us could do is start writing or emailing or calling our congressional representatives and telling them how important this bill is to us.
Exactly, Linda. And I can give you some really practical tool. There is an effort within the world that we work in, Catholic Charities, called Justice for Immigrants. And if people go to justiceforimmigrants.org, there's an action alert right there on the front page. You can quickly type in your name, and an action alert about supporting the Afghan Adjustment Act will go right to your congressional representatives. And you can call. Calls are very, very effective because somebody has to listen to you and write it down. And we've learned that, the more volume this gets, the better. Some might ask, well, is the Massachusetts congressional delegation on board? Yes, they are. Of course, Senator Markey, Senator Warren, and all of our state reps are all House representatives are all in support of this act. But what we don't have is enough voices from both parties speaking on this. So it's important to get in touch with your representatives here, but also if you have friends and family in New Hampshire, in Maine, in other parts of the country, Texas, where there's lots of Afghans who would benefit from this. Reach out to them as well, because we need to get momentum. I mean, there's so much trouble going on in this world right now and in our country, and Congress has a lot of things on their plate. So if they don't hear from us and they don't hear how important this act is and how having this act is good for America, it helps our country. We keep workers, young, smart, hardworking people here permanently. You know, I've heard many Afghans would like to join the military.
Yeah, a lot of
Afghans, right? Young, really willing, you want to give back.
Yes, they want.
You can't join if you don't have a green card.
Yeah.
So it makes our military stronger. Think of the language capacity that our Afghan brothers and sisters offer.
Yeah.
We need you here. But having you here in a temporary parole status is harmful. It's harming you. It's harming those who want to serve and help you, and it's harming the country.
Yes, it is. It's because the 6 of guys, my friends, they are like student pilots. They want to continue their studying in pilots. They want to be pilots, but now they can't because they are.
And we need pilots.
Yeah.
We do.
That's so
They
interesting.
didn't have green card. They can continue their studying in pilots. They are like student pilots. One of them work in hospital, work in like in IT. They are not like they want to pilots, but now they can't because of
Yeah.
green card.
People we desperately
Yeah.
need.
Yes.
That's so interesting. Margine, if we get this bill passed, would that allow our Afghan community to bring their families?
Once you would get your permanent resident status, and depending on which family members you are going to plan to bring. So if you're married, your process to apply for your spouse and your children goes a little bit faster.
Yes.
It is a little harder to bring parents over and like brothers and sisters, but it certainly speeds up any processes because you're already a legal resident here.
Yes.
And then in 5 years, you can become a citizen.
Right. Because another my friends, Mr. Baez, he has a families now. They are in Pakistan. He need to bring their
Right.
families here.
Yeah.
Right. And permanent residency allows for that, allows your spouse, and allows your children who are under
Yeah.
21 years of age.
Yeah.
And, the application itself for permanent residency is nowhere as near as complex as that 400-page asylum application that I talked about. So programs like Catholic Charities would be able to faster move those through the queue, right? It's not as heavy as a lift. When we do an asylum application, we probably spend 40 to 50 hours of prep time with our client, one-on-one, to get the story, because we have to prove beyond any doubts that this person is being persecuted. So it would be alleviating so many barriers. And I guess for me, as someone who does this work at Catholic Charities, because of our faith tradition and our mission and faith, I think it's a moral obligation we have to do this. And I feel that very deeply, that it's not right to let 76,000 people in limbo. In this country, we already have 11 million people who are living daily in limbo. Why are we adding to that when we could have this fix?
I couldn't agree more, and I think everybody who's listening and viewing, who's heard your passionate advocacy, will agree, and I think we can all agree that what we can do is bring it to the attention of anybody in Congress who represents us, and send the word to. We all have relatives and friends in other states and other countries and other areas, so let's do it. I think we can. Does anybody else have comments or questions?
I know that in the Republican Party, a lot of veterans are representatives now, and I can't imagine that they wouldn't support this endeavor, because they were their lives were saved often by the Afghan Special Forces or the security guards and all the people, the translators that they worked with and grew to know very well and talk about so fondly. So I think this is a bipartisan issue, and I just the folks just need to be reminded. So this is so important that we get the word out.
And the veterans I know tend to be very supportive of other veterans, other people who risk their lives for a cause. So I think you probably can count on them.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank each of you for being here today. I think you've done a lot to enlighten the public. Colm, Taj, Marjine, Beth, Salem, thank you for being here. I found a quote that I thought just sort of summed up what we're talking today. I wish I knew who originated it. I don't, but I was impressed. Hope has two beautiful daughters, anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, courage to see that they do not remain as they are. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you will all take action on this important subject.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.